Thank you very much. My name is Thomas Korner. I work for the ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and I'm happy to start our presentation. First of all, from the initiators, it was kind of 4 years ago, something where Luca, Tim, I, and nowadays Marco as well, are thinking about what do we need to have a proper online assessment system. What are the main pain points and how we could stand together and make this thing happen, because we all knew it's too huge for one single institution. So we thought about what can we do to collaboratively work together to make this thing happen. And what we became is, I think, one of the biggest collaboration between institutions to make Moodle better. In the meantime, we are around 20 universities, institutions, schools, which contributed in one or other way to this ongoing project. It started with 4.0. If you installed it, all the quiz bank improvements you probably have seen. We are now in the midst of 4.1, which we'll see later on, and there are some future plans. If you have these kind of ideas, you probably should ask yourself who can contribute what? So seek for people who are good in UX, seek for developers who are capable to really do the stuff, but also think about project management and stuff like that, because these projects in this size we're talking now take more than just let's go into coding and make something happen. On the other hand, what we experience is this great opportunity to learn something. So for some of the developers, it was this best opportunity to work together with Tim Hunt as a long-time maintainer of the quiz module and learn from the best. When it comes to money, you have to ask yourself, and then later on to sell to all the possible contributors, what do I gain if I give money? So we decided that there is this kind of early insight shows, so our contributors know way ahead what will be there and how it will look like, and they do have some influence on the roadmap. So there are some basic democratic decisions on what we do first or what do we postpone. But additionally, this kind of connection between these contributors, which are working on other projects as well, and so you get interconnected with other ideas and other members of the community. Yeah, acknowledgement and praise, for sure. And there's this one additional thing which we all feel sometimes when it comes to Moodle. We do the right thing. We do something for the world. We do something for the people who cannot afford or attend to other paid software, for example. And probably what is interesting for you, and I start with the bottom of this slide, believe in your dreams, never give up. When this idea came up between us three, we asked ourselves, is this really doable? Can we three from 3 universities in Europe really do this thing? We believed in that and used every connection we had, Moodle Users Association, conferences, personal relationships, and, well, simply brought up the topic again and again and again and again, and finally we could find a smaller crowd, a bigger crowd, and now we are very happy. At this point of time, we have the most contributors who are joining. So, starting with a very regulated amount of money, we can afford things. Now we come to a point where we really can think bigger and bigger and bigger, because there are a lot of institutions are joining us and believe in what we achieved. So it is kind of, if you're successful, even in a small part, then some others begin to believe in you, and you can do even better things and more things. Yeah, I think that's from my side, and I'm happy to give the mic to Tim.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, if you could So what's going to happen next is, well, in a minute, Safat is actually going to show you what we've built. But he's about to show you a lot of stuff very quickly, so give you 2 chances to take it in before Safat shows you this. So Safat from Catalyst is the lead developer who has headed the team who's actually built all this stuff. I'm Tim Hunt from the Open University. I worked with Thomas and Luca to sort of help specify what it is we were going to do. But before we get into what it is, so I'm going to give you a quick summary of what we've done, then Safat's going to show you. But before I get into that, I just wanted to look back a little bit, because the quiz has been in Moodle almost from the start, and the way it has grown over the years into the highly sort of powerful system it is today is just one step at a time. And I feel what we're doing now is just taking the next 1 or 2 steps along what has already been a very long road, and I hope will be a road that continues far into the future. And I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I just want to pick out one word from here. Over the years, one of the things we've done is introduce types of plugin. And there was a brilliant talk this morning from Immaculata, who was using the quiz access rule plugins in a way that just never even occurred to me. So it's a great feature of Moodle that you can do things in plugins, and if you make it possible to do things in plugins, people will come up with things you never even imagined. So that is, in fact, one of the things we have done in the new version of the question bank. Everything in the question bank is now done with plugins. So that's all the standard features we have today, but who knows what question bank plugins we'll get in future. Now we've opened it up to any developer who wants to have a go. So everything's plugins, so that's lots of controls for and flexibility for the future. The other really big change that landed in Moodle 4, so if you've got Moodle 4, you've got this already, was that it tracks every version of every question as you edit it. And that gives you, for exams where you really care about this stuff, which version of which question is used in each exam. If you don't care about that, you don't have to worry about it. And another really important thing, when you're looking in the question bank, it will show you for each question all the places that question is used, and it will also give you a summary of the statistics for how well that worked. So if you're managing big question bank, that's really, really useful. And various other small useful improvements that Safat will show you. And originally we naively thought we'd get all this done for Moodle 4, but of course it didn't work out like that. So there's more coming in Moodle 4.1. Quite a lot of this is going through integration now. Fingers crossed that HQ accept it all. The 2 big changes there, we've got at the moment, the ability to search and find the questions you want in the question bank is very limited. That's becoming much, much more flexible. And it's not just finding questions to find them in the question bank. That same flexibility will be available when you add questions randomly to the quiz. And also, at the moment, it's kind of fixed that every course in Moodle has a question bank, whether you want it or not, but there is only one. In future, question banks are going to be a configurable activity. So if you want 2 question banks to keep your exam questions separate from your practice questions, you'll be able to have that. If you don't need a question bank at all in this course, you won't need to add one. And again, there are some small improvements. But now let's give as much time as possible to Safat to do the demo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Safat Shahin from Catalyst ID Australia. I just want to thank everyone contributed to this project, my team, peer reviewers, integrators. We would never reach this point without everyone's contribution. So before starting my demo, I'll be showing you a little bit of differentiated demo with 2 different sites where what we actually have in 4.0, and also I'm going to be giving you a quick demo of what's the near future. So with near future, I mean 4.1, what amazing things you're going to get again in 4.1. So I'll just stop and start showing my screen here, and I believe it's here. All right. All right. So, dear Moodlers, let me welcome you to the new generation of quiz and question bank. As you can see, if you're aware of the older versions of the question bank, there's a huge difference and huge amount of features added. Just to start with the new generation, whatever you can see in this page is actually a plugin. And whatever is not a plugin yet is going to be a plugin in 4.1. That means whatever columns you can see, question, actions, status, versions, whatever bulk actions you have in the bottom. So you can, if you can select multiple questions, go to the bottom and do bulk action, plug in. If you look at the top, we have some navigation node, which actually includes the base question bank, categories, import, export. These are also plugins as well. And another groundbreaking changes we did with the question bank is actually we introduced versioning, which I'm going to be demoing to you shortly. But let's start with how these plugins will actually help you use the question bank from a whole different level. On the very right of my screen, you can see the usage column, which actually gives you a very good idea when you click that number, and that number actually shows you how many places it's getting used in. So the moment I click it, it will open up a quick modal. I'll just click it, which actually gives you a very nice view of the preview of the question itself and shows you which activity it's used, which course that activity is in, and actually how many attempts you have for that specific activity. So it kind of gives you at a glance information of where it's used, and you can always click them and go to the activity directly without going through the different navigations of your course and whatever. All right, so if I close them, then you have 3 statistics column, which actually gives you a very good idea of how your question is performing. Does it need to be reviewed? Does it need to be changed? Does it need checking and stuff like that? And also, just after that, you have a column saying review. All right, so the moment I tell you every single column is a plugin, you start thinking, yes, if I need any custom data or if I need to do something with the question bank, you build a plugin. It's correct, not correct. If you need a custom data in your question bank, we have introduced custom fields in question. So now you can actually have any sort of custom data in your question without having to build anything. You just use the question custom fields plugin, create a custom field, add those data, and those data will be straight away available in your question like that review column. And the best thing is we're using core custom fields API. That means the moment you have any feature added to the core custom fields API, it will be straight away available in your question bank. All right, so as I said, the biggest groundbreaking changes we did with versioning, just let me show you how it works. So in this page, you can see the version 1, some of them are version 6. That means it's actually showing you the latest version. That means the moment you go to edit a question and change anything, like make any changes, add something, delete something, whatever you do, it actually creates a version without affecting the previous one. And we have built a plugin called History, where you can very quickly go and see the breakdown of the versions, how specific versions performing, if there is anything you need to check on any specific versions, stuff like that. And also with versioning, we have introduced status for questions. So for example, let's say you just created a question, you don't want that question added to quiz, or you don't want anyone else to use that question. You can very easily put your question to draft mode and just keep working on it without making any changes. And also, to take you to another level of collaboration, we have comments plugin, where users or teachers can come together, comment on different versions of the questions, collaborate with each other, which actually helps you to improve your questions in a very much collaborative space without having to manually talking to each other. All right. And now, if I quickly show you something more interesting. So with those new plugins, you can see you have a lot of columns. And of course, going forward, there will be more and more columns. It will get bigger. You might start thinking, I don't need all those columns. Or maybe I don't need all the columns in this way. I want it differently. For example, maybe for you, comments column might be the most important one. We have got you covered. So we have a plugin called Column Sort Order, which actually helps you to sort your columns according to your business rules or preference, so that you can actually sort them whatever important to you. So you have a very nice drag and drop view. You can drag and drop and sort them. And I'll be showing you another groundbreaking change, which is coming in future. You will have user configurable view. I believe I have covered everything in 4.0. But another thing is, as I said, with the continuity of 4.0, we have upgraded some bits in 4.1. And let me welcome you to the bits we did in 4.1. So the groundbreaking changes happens in 4.1 is everything becomes an activity, as Tim already explained, rather than having different question categories and stuff. So you can actually manage it like an activity. You can differentiate your question banks according to your preference. And the moment you go to the question bank, you will see there's a new filterable object. So at the top of the screen, you will see a new advanced filtering. So you might be aware of the participants filter. If you go to a course, enroll, you can see the nice little filterable view, and you have the users. So we actually took that part out of co-user, made it a proper API, and used it inside question bank. So you have advanced filtering inside question bank. And that's not all. It's nothing that is just filtering specific things. You can actually have your filterable objects from plugin. So for example, if you build a plugin, you can have your filterable object inside that plugin, and those filterable options will be available here. For example, if I click add condition, and you can see those options here. So status, tag, last use date, modified by. Any plugin can have their own filterable objects there. It's very easy to implement. The moment you add it to your plugin, it will be available to you in the question bank. And also, as I said, we have some groundbreaking changes with the question bank view. We have user configurable view. You might think why I have very little columns in my 4.1 side. And the reason is the moment you click edit mode, you have a user configurable view where you can enable or disable specific columns according to your preference inside this page. And also, you can make it bigger, smaller, you can drag and drop, and also you can pin them. And it's user specific. So if you have 5 different teachers in your course, every teacher can have their own preference. And also, if any point you think, I don't like my view anymore, you can click the reset button and it will take you to the original state where you just started. All right, so let's go back to the quiz a little bit, because whatever changes we're doing in question bank, actually to make quiz a better place for everyone. So with the versioning in quiz, so if I go to this 4.0 site and I go to course, and let's go to a quiz. With the versioning in quiz, the moment you add a question, you can actually specify which version you want to use. So let's say you have 6 different versions. You can actually specify which version you want to use. You want to use the latest version, you want to use version 1, version 2, or if you think, I want to use the latest version. So if you're continuously updating your questions, you can always select the always latest from the dropdown, which will specifically pick up the always latest ready version from your question bank for that specific question. All right, so when I say we are introducing filtering, advanced filtering in 4.1, is just not for the view. The biggest part of this change was actually in the quiz. We have added this advanced filtering in random questions. So if I go to my quiz, let's say this random question quiz, and I go to questions, and I try to add a random question. You can see I have this advanced filtering options inside random questions. So you can actually set specific filters, or like according to your preference, how you want the random question algorithm to pick up a question. You can go up to any kind of complex filtering you want. So according to the filters you set, random question will pick up that question from your question bank. And just to give you some more ideas, it's just not UI level or just visible changes we're doing. We're doing huge amount of behind the API changes. We want to make sure developers have the best experience while using the question bank API. We want to include more and more developers coming to build more and more QBank plugin and make it a better place for everyone. So please, if you have any questions, I'm here in the Catalyst booth. Let me know. And of course, if you have any question later on, I'm just an email away. Thank you very much.
Luca, would you like to say something? Are you okay?
Yeah, a few more points, because it doesn't stop here. We are thinking about what could still be done in the next versions in Moodle 4.2. ideas that are around are why shouldn't be able to use rubrics in grading essay questions, or comment in essay questions so that students get the comments as you can in the assignment activities, so inline comments in their answers. Even beyond, we have some ideas that could be adding the ordering questions maybe to Moodle Core, or add recording of audio and video by default, and many more questions and ideas. The journey, so to say, is not over. You have seen that we have some contributors, and some are here in the room. Thank you very much for your contributions. If you yourself would like to contribute, it's about the more, the merrier. The more contributions we have, the more features we are able to include. So maybe your institution has a fund for quality assurance. I mean, good questions and good quiz is quality assurance. Or you have a fund for digitalization to do digital transformation, something like that. A digital quiz is a digitalization project. If you know something, if you might have some funds, please let yourself be heard, contribute and share also ideas. These ideas are just steps to the future, possible perspectives. We're not taking them down already. It's not fixed. So please let yourself be heard, and let yourself be heard now. We are really keen to hear your questions.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. We'll push a mic your way for this group. Okay.
Thank you for the beautiful features. I think a question for Safat. Can you name a label, not just have version 1, version 2? I imagine I will not really remember what's in version 1, version 5. Is it possible to put some notes?
Can I take this one? Sorry. Nadav, I happened to see this yesterday in a demonstration where it was about the translation, how Amos works. And this is actually a string in Amos. So you will be able to amend that V bracket with the variable A and just put in version or whatever you want in your language, and so it's customizing its work like that. Oh, you don't mean that? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you mean you want to make it flexible, that you can name your version into, I don't know. Not yet implemented, I would say.
Oh, you can. Yeah, there is a way you can do that. All right, so if you don't want to have the version column, you can turn it off with the new. So with the 4.1 changes, you can turn it off by default as a site admin, and you can actually use custom fields. You can use custom field and name and label whatever you can want to do there. If you have a set, you can just use a checkbox, drop down, or custom text, doesn't matter. You can very easily use that and have it labeled.
Firstly, I want to thank you all for taking the quiz to a lot higher level. It's great things coming up. I'm very excited about it. And what I wondered was that the changing from the question bank to an activity, will that solve the terrible problem of all the questions from question bank being imported from one quiz to another, whether you like it or not?
Yes, so that was that. Yes, so that was the biggest problem we tried to solve with Mod QBank, is actually optimize the backup and restore. So when you back up a quiz, it actually includes what's in use, not the whole thing. So yes, it is actually solving. So I believe there are 2 trackers. I don't remember the names of the trackers, but there are very 2 old trackers which are actually solved or partly solved by these changes. It's not entirely, I would say it's not entirely solving the problem, but it's, I would say 80% solves the problem at some point. So if you back up a quiz, it actually adds what you want, not the whole question bank if you have 1 million questions in it.
Will make a lot of people very happy with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, by the way. I was wondering if there's a way to filter the question bank through keywords and or question numbers, especially when you get an error message that says there's a problem with such and such question, and they give you the number of the question, and I've never found a way to find that number in the question bank.
I think we haven't got that exact thing yet, because we're showing you which quizzes it's in, but not the question number within that quiz, which is slightly tricky when you've got random questions. So it's not a simple thing, but maybe where it is a simple thing, we should have it there and we should have it searchable. So no, we haven't thought of that yet, but that's a good idea, and it's the kind of thing you can do with the new plugins. So yeah. Keywords, I don't think we've done that yet. Again, no reason not to, other than just time to develop these things. So, yeah, another good idea, thank you. Why haven't we done keyword search?
We did a question text search.
Oh, did we? Oh, maybe we've done it and I don't realise. Sorry. Wait and see what we actually release in Moodle 4.1. That also, search conditions can be plugins, so if we haven't managed to do it, someone can do it, but that's a plugin that should be part of the standard release for sure. Anyway, question at the back there?
Just in addition, feel free to contact us, join us in the group, and we can think about using the existing environment to develop that.
How hard it is for a teacher to share its question bank with the student?
I was about to answer that question, then you put the word student on the end. Were you at the previous talk by my colleague Chris about student quiz? I mean, that's one way to make a whole pool of questions available to students. I mean, Chris was talking about students creating the questions, but you can preload it with questions you've created, and you don't need to give the students permission to create more. But also, the new activity gives you more control over who can share which questions. Because just like, generally in a course you might have a teacher, but you might within one particular forum give another person the teacher role just in that forum so they can moderate that forum without being teacher in the whole course. Once Question Bank is an activity, if you want someone to have access to your questions to be able to use them but not edit them, you could give them non-editing teacher rights just in that question bank, and then they can share your questions. Or if you want them to be able to contribute to your question bank, you can give them editing teacher rights in that question bank.